Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Can everyone hear me? Please type yes so we can continue, inshallah. All right, Alhamdulillah, I got my first yes. That was on Zoom, and I need somebody to tell me on YouTube as well, inshallah, so that I know that everything is working just fine. All right. Alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Allahumma allimna ma yanfa'una wanfa'na bima 'allamtana wa zidna ilman ya rabbal alamin. Oh Allah, teach us what would benefit us and help us benefit from what we learn and increase us in knowledge. Ameen ya rabbal alamin. Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome back. It feels so good to be here with you after Ramadan. Subhanallah, that went fast. I pray you're all carrying the amazing things you learned during Ramadan into your daily lives and not just going back to normal, but inshallah stepping into a better normal, inshallah, with more connected to Quran, inshallah, and fasting. Okay, so inshallah, we are officially back with our live sessions. So get comfortable because these lives are going to become a regular space for us to connect, learn, and grow together, bi'idhnillah. For those of you who are new, welcome. I'm Umar, a Muslim certified parenting and marriage and intimacy coach. And I'm here to serve you. That's my purpose for every single life, bi'idhnillah. So don't be shy. Drop your questions in the chat, whether it's about parenting, marriage, or personal struggles, whatever is on your heart. I'm here for you, inshallah. And while your questions start coming, I'm going to touch on a few important things that I haven't had a chance to talk about just yet. Okay, and one of those things that I wanted to talk about was the concept of apologizing to your kids. Now, you hear this everywhere. Parenting coaches talk about it all the time. Okay, every single time that you make a mistake, you need to take accountability, ownership, and you need to apologize to your kids. So that is important. I advocated for it too. Alhamdulillah, that is something that we should do, is to apologize to our kids and not be arrogant about the mistakes that we've made. But here is when it becomes a problem. Now, when you find yourself apologizing all day, every day, and if you're apologizing, let's say, probably like 3, 4 times on average each day, here is what starts to happen. It begins to shift the focus in your home from all of the negative things that you've been doing to the child. And nobody thinks about the positives you've been doing. Literally, you're serving them day and night. Nobody even notices that anymore. And your child's focus shifts towards, oh, I'm the victim. Mama does so many bad things to me all day. And you start feeling very guilty as well, apologizing so many times. And you start feeling like, okay, there's something wrong with you. You're not a good mother. So you start your parenting from a place of guilt. Ugh, I keep apologizing and I keep making the same mistakes again and again. And so do you see how it can become very negative instead of being a positive thing that you're doing? Now, of course, we don't want our kids to feel our victims. Don't want them to feel like bad things keep happening to them all day in this house. And mama is the one who's the villain doing so many bad things to me. And so what can we do to really reduce the apologies? And of course, it goes without saying that, we should work on our triggers. We should improve our skills so that we don't make that many mistakes again anymore. It goes without saying. We should be constantly working on our parenting, on our skills and all of that. But meanwhile, What can we do to reduce the number of apologies? And we all know that the best apology is a changed behavior. And yes, we do take accountability for our actions. And meanwhile, you need to reclaim your parental dignity. And if you're reminding your child, and if everybody's focusing on the mistake that you made, it should be like a 1 to 5 ratio. So there should at least be 5 reminders of good things as well that you're doing to negate that effect, to keep the focus positive, so that your child doesn't feel like a victim, which they're not. You're, mashallah, providing them with everything you have. You're doing your best. So reclaim your dignity. And, you're not just someone who keeps making mistakes, who makes mistakes. You're someone who actually loves and teaches and nurtures and shows up every single day. Now, how do we stop or how do we reduce over apologizing without becoming harsh or dismissive? So we can do a couple of things. First, let's pause before apologizing. Not every uncomfortable moment requires an apology. Sometimes your child is upset because of a boundary, or, not because something you did wrong. So ask yourself, did I actually harm them? Or did I tell them something that was necessary for them to do? Okay, the bath time is over, so they have to get out. So do I really need to apologize for that? And you can replace that apology with an acknowledgement. So you could say that, oh, I see you're upset. That was hard for you. I know. And another fix that you can do is that you could, like, for example, if there are like specifically hard days on you that no matter how hard you try, you do end up snapping. So for that, for those out of control days, like, during PMS or during like bereavement, where la qadr Allah, la samha Allah, somebody passed from your family and you're going to be short-tempered. So, so the times when you know that you're going to be very overwhelmed, for example, if your spouse is traveling and you have no support and you have loads of kids. So now you're going to be very overwhelmed. Plan for it ahead of time and tell them. So, for example, for PMS, tell them in an age-appropriate way. I might be a bit more tired or short-tempered over the next couple of days. So, I'll need some extra patience or understanding from you, know that, and if I am upset or angry or, it's just me. It's not about you. I would be unable to like handle many things and it's a specifically trying time for me or hard time for me. And then, once those days pass, instead of apologizing over and over for every single thing, make, one calm collective apology and say, oh, for the past couple of days, I was a bit short-tempered. Remember, when I told you about those days that I get every month? But I'm feeling better now. And inshallah, everything will be much better now. So that way, in a simple, grounded, and respectful way, you are taking you're bringing back your parental dignity. You're still taking accountability, but you're not overemphasizing the negatives. So that is one thing that I wanted to talk about. I hope that does make sense. Does that make sense? Are there any questions or follow-ups? Okay, so there's another thing that I actually wanted to talk about meanwhile, and it is on parental loneliness. And why did I want to talk about this is because I heard from a mother who was asking me to talk about this topic because she said that sometimes she is unable to handle her child's constant crying. And if your child is a newborn phase, this phase comes on every parent and every child. Sometimes the child can cry up to like 3 hours for no particular reason. Like they could just be gassy, so there's nothing you can do about that. Or they could be colic, and especially like if your child is colic. subhanallah, especially trying for parents because it hits like clockwork. So it could be like a time of the day, like maybe in the evening around 6 o'clock, every day your child is going to cry for ages. And it can become really overwhelming. So in those scenarios, parents feel guilty not keep soothing their children, but at the same time, they start feeling really overwhelmed. And I wanted to tell that mother, because she felt so guilty leaving her child and going away, stepping away, or anything like that. And she had no support, literally, no family, and husband was away at work. So she was alone with the child all day. And I wanted to tell her, kids have literally died from their parents having no support, feeling trapped, and no escape, even for a minute. And I wanted to tell her, have you ever heard of a shaken baby syndrome? What is a shaken baby syndrome? It's like, when you get so frustrated, why is the baby not stopping? You actually like shake them, and that causes internal wounds in the brain. It could lead, subhanallah, qadar, could lead to death, but it could also lead to some lifelong impairments in the child. So, so it's really important. This is something I take really seriously. Is parents learning how to carve moments in their day to become better parents. So the moment for themselves, for self-care, so that they can become better parents. So I was telling her, it's really important for you to learn how to step away for moments. Even, you know, your child is not going to die from crying. They're not, inshallah. That's not something that happens. But so just leave them for 10, 15, 20 minutes, inshallah. Take a breath, and then you can come back. And then you can come back in a much calmer state. And the only thing that's important to do, even if your child is a little bit older, but it's becoming really overwhelming for you, like for example, say if you have 3, 4 kids and they're all fighting and they're all, or maybe they're crying or they're like being specifically disruptive and very overwhelming for you. First of all, I would recommend in that case to separate them, and but then also carve out time for a break for yourselves. And the only thing you need to remember when you're taking a break from your child is to make it clear to them, tell them, explain to them that you're not punishing them, you're not abandoning them. You will come back. You just need some time alone. And also, what you can do is to carve out time for yourself, is to get your children used to and accustomed to you taking short breaks. And for that, you could you could make it into a game, especially when they're younger. So you could be like, you could say, oh, let's play Treasure God. And what is that game? It is that your child could sit in a cozy spot and guarding a special toy or a snack until you come back to them. So they'd be acting like guards or policemen, or so they'll have to you know guard that toy, and you could easily take a break up to 15 or to 20 minutes, and they're guarding. They can get comfortable with a book, and they just sit there and get used to these like short times for you being away from them. And it should start earlier, inshallah. And the most like this, it's really important for them to also learn that you always do come back. And if it's really hard for them at that moment, especially when they're younger, you can really space it out a little bit. So what you can do is like try to gradually get them used to just playing on the ground while you just sitting next to them and reading a book. This is time for yourself, and this is time for them to play. And then you can slowly maybe move to them playing in a room while you just being in the next room. And slowly you can build on that. And so this is like a treasure god. And there's like also a version for bigger children, which is quiet time. So you start getting them used to it by the time they're 3, 4, 5. You start everybody. 5 o'clock it's going to be our quiet time, and make it shorter in the beginning. So just say half an hour, 20 minutes. It's going to be in the quiet time. We're going to put the timer on. And as soon as the timer goes off, we can come back to each other and talk again. But for the time being, we're all going to be very quiet. And it's especially useful for homeschooling mothers. because they're all day, every day with their children. So this is how you can get some time out for yourself and you can get everybody used to kind of this kind of routine, a quiet time. It can keep stretching a little bit until you get like an hour, like hour and a half with everybody just doing their quiet time activities and list out the activities, reading books, painting, coloring, whatever. And those are quiet time activities that everybody can focus on. It could be also them reading a book as well, especially if your kids are like 5, 6, they can read things. It's really good to get them hooked on books and good books. So inshallah, that way you can get a lot of time for yourself. And another game is a statue game. Especially if your kids are younger, like 3, 4, 5, get them used to this game. And it's like, okay, so when you shout out statue, everybody becomes a statue. And don't try not to move until you say something like melt or move. And why is this helpful? I'm teaching you these skills. Why is this helpful? This is helpful, especially, for example, if you have a 3-year-old, 2-year-old, 4-year-old, 5-year-old. It is really helpful, especially if a glass breaks, for example. A glass breaks, and the kids, by nature, what they were going to want to do is to come towards it, explore it, touch it, whatever. And you as a mother are going to be stressed out because your mama bear is going to come out and you want them protected. So what if they are used to this game, you can just yell out, statue, and everybody is going to freeze in their places. And you get to tell them, okay, this is dangerous. Mama needs to clean it myself. I'm gonna say melt, but when I say melt, everybody needs to take a step back and go towards safety. You tell them where to go, and well, Mama, and I'm gonna sort this out, and then you can come back and play when it's safe. See how that is helpful? It is also helpful when maybe your child is running towards the road, for example, and you can shout out statue, and they will if they're used to this game, they will freeze, and then you get to approach them and say melt, and then you talk about it. So those are the few things that I wanted to talk about. And now let's see if there are any questions or any comments, any volunteers to talk about any of their experiences, to share something useful, to tell a story. Please jump in anytime. Don't be shy. And in the community, in our Al-Qawarir community, I was keeping an eye on the chat, and in our motherhood group, we had discussions on toilet training. Very, very useful resources were shared there, mashallah. Like sisters were so knowledgeable about it, so many great tips. And in our femininity and marriage group, we had sisters talking about avoidant people, avoidant husbands. And I thought it might be a good idea to speak about that as well, inshallah, and share some of my thoughts with you on the topic. Let's see. Okay. Is that something you're interested in, sisters? Should we talk about avoiding husbands? Should we go back to parenting? Should we go back to some intimacy tips? Let me know, inshallah. This is your space and the floor is open for you. Whatever you want help and support with, I'm here for that, inshallah. All right. Okay. So, right. All right. So the sister was saying that, talking about her husband being very avoidant. And actually, let me just try and pull the conversation up, see if it's possible. Where is our community? A sister is saying the safest place for a baby is crib for when mom needs to shower or have a break. Well done, dear. Thank you for sharing that. And it did escape my mind. And you are right. Crib is the safest place. As long as crib is not full of like stuffed toys and all side of blankets and stuff. If it, keep it like simple. One stuffed toy is fine, but too many things can become suffocation hazard, especially if your baby is very, very young. Then try to keep the crib very, very plain and simple. All right. Um, the sister said, I'm interested to know how to handle avoidant people. Can you please make a video about these people who are avoidant? Barakallahu fiki. Right. So when it comes to avoidant people, there is one key thing that I want you all to remember, and that is that avoidance really is all about trying to protect oneself. It's not about hurting you. It's not about hurting other people. It is just about protecting yourself. So whoever is avoidant, they're not doing it to hurt you, because if they're doing it to hurt you, then that's not called avoidance. Rather, it's called silent treatment. Silent treatment is manipulative. But just being avoidant is not manipulative. Rather, it is protection and preservation. So if anybody is avoidant, if your husband is avoidant, and it's normally because they are scared. They're scared to share their feelings. They're scared to be vulnerable. Now, it might have nothing to do with you and everything to do with their childhood, or it might have everything to do with you. And at the core, what it is the breakdown in communication. That's what it is at the core. Is there is a communication gap between spouses. They're not able to communicate effectively. He might have tried in the past to communicate and might have felt attacked. And then he learned over time that it's safer not to say anything. So remember, whenever you're dealing with such people, when you're dealing with that kind of husband, is that do not assume. So, for example, if your husband comes back home quiet and you assume that, oh, they're upset with me. So instead of asking, you could become like withdraw and defensive. So this is the breakdown in communication. In reality, he was just tired. And what does avoidant really mean? So they're avoiding talking about their feelings. They're not bringing things up by themselves. They're the wife is having to keep asking them questions, and they might not like answering. They might going quiet. They might going cold. They might becoming distant. So there's like this is emotional withdrawal on their side, and then the wife starts panicking, and she's like, okay, and she starts pursuing even more, and that makes them feel even more unsafe, so they withdraw even more. And the best thing to do is that to not pursue them. So avoidant people really like their space, and the first thing is to give them their space, and the second thing is to actively create the environment of safety, especially around their feelings, especially around anything they might deem risky to talk about. And then if they're making any small changes in the right direction, that you appreciate that, you notice that, and you say, I'm so happy you've shared this with me. I'm so happy you're telling this to me. It's a very simple sentence. It goes a long way when you tell them, when they come to you and they tell you something, and you say, "Oh, I'm so happy you're telling me this." Thank you for sharing that with me. So it goes a long way into making them feel appreciated, making them feel like, okay, they're safe to start sharing their feelings more. And and know that because you know that the avoidance is not about hurting you, rather about them being safe and feeling safe, you got to give them time. The changes doesn't happen overnight. And what you got to do meanwhile though is you have to actually try to find other avenues for connection. Because if your sole connection is with your husband and then he's being avoidant, that would put you in a very miserable place. However, if you were not dependent on your husband for feeling connected and close, then inshallah, you are going to be at a much healthier place to handle his avoidance. And avoidant people do come out of their shell, but it really depends. They do that for people they love and they feel safe with. So then it becomes it becomes your task then is to try to improve your skills so that you make them feel safe. And what really happens and we see that in a lot of counseling situations is that sometimes husbands try to talk to their wives, and it could be vice versa as well, but I'm just giving an example of husband because in this scenario he's the one avoidant. He tries to talk to his wife about something and she doesn't hear it, and it happens all the time. Like I will give you an example in a minute. So a husband tries to tell something to his wife and she doesn't hear it. So then he becomes withdrawn and avoidant because he learns there is no point in communicating. I'm going to get attacked anyway. So for example, if one partner says, I feel overwhelmed with kids, let's assume this is a husband talking to his wife. I feel so overwhelmed with the kids' noise or so overwhelmed with kids. And immediately the wife responds, I've been working all day. I am tired too. So now what's happening here is both of them are talking over each other and both of them are saying things, but none of them is really hearing what the other person is saying. None of them is actually listening to what the other person is saying. They're just busy defending themselves. So when the communication turns defensive instead of listening and understanding, the communication breakdown happens. It's very, very common. So instead of wife saying, I was working all day too, I'm tired too, she could have said, oh, I hear you. You're feeling very, very overwhelmed with kids. And how can we help with that? How can we make changes? So this is really hearing and empathizing. You don't even necessarily have to bring the changes into picture, but just empathizing goes a long way. Okay, I see that. I hear it. You are really overwhelmed. Just that, and leave it at that. And the husband might try to elaborate on it as well afterwards if he's given space. If he doesn't feel like you're being defensive, rather you're being open. He might share more things. He might share things like, "Oh, look at that one. He is throwing crayons everywhere. How annoying is that?" And wife could say something like, "Yes, that's very annoying. I know, and I see that too." Okay, so right now what you're doing is you're really listening to him without trying to defend yourself. That okay, it's not your fault that the child is throwing crayons. So, many wives take it as a criticism that the child is throwing crayons on the floor, so she should be the one to provide a calm and happy atmosphere for him. But really, communication is not about that. It's about listening, how other person is feeling and empathizing with them. So then I know the wife also wants acknowledgement for how hard she's been working all day. And she's tired too. She wants to tell that to her husband too. Yes, but there's a time and a place. So when it's not a good time to bring it when he's brought up his complaint. If he's brought up his complaint, let's hear it. You'll have your turn as well later on. All right. So see how that goes, how that works. Okay. And right, and the sister is saying, same avoidant question from me. Sister Faiza, if you want to elaborate on it or you want to discuss any specific with me, you feel free to use your microphone. I can give you the microphone access and let's talk about it more specifically so that it's more meaningful to you, inshallah. All right, a sister is saying how to enter into marriage smoothly and not fear being parent. Sister, could you elaborate? Why are you afraid of being a parent? What is it about parenthood that is so scary for you? Because for some people, it is the greatest gift in life. There are people, who say that they truly learned the joy of life only after having kids. And as with anything in life that's worth having, it's worth struggling for. So you might have struggles with it. That's like with everything in life. So not having kids is also a struggle. And having kids is also a struggle. So like you just have to choose your struggles and like what is more meaningful to you, what is better for you. And if you want to talk about specifics, let's talk, inshallah. Okay, let me just right. Okay. Right. Okay, while these sisters are typing, inshallah, let me talk about something else that I really wanted to talk about, and that is energizers and energy zappers. So, everything that you do in your life, every single thing, whether it's eating, it's talking to people, it's reading Quran, it's doing salah, whatever you do in life, everything, every action that you're doing, I want to give you a new way to look at it. And that is energizers and energy zappers. So you can classify whatever you're doing into these two things. Either that thing is energizer for you or it is an energy zapper for you. So if you classify everything into energizers and energy zappers, then you truly learn the self-care. Because this is all the self-care is all about. And that is to balance them out. So once you've identified that a task you do is an energy zapper for you, for example, cooking is an energy zapper for you. But for some, cooking is energizers because they get to create something and they truly take pride into their creativity and their presentation and the taste of it. So that energizes them. And it's different for everybody. What you find as energizer is not what your friend might find energizer, what your partner might find energizer. So your energizers are different from everybody else. It's a matter of getting to know what energizes you and what zaps your energy. And it's the matter of, okay, energy zappers are not bad things. Sometimes there are necessary things that you have to do. It could be it could be nighttime routine. That could be an energy zapper for you, especially if you've got kids who don't want to sleep. But for others, that might be energizers because they love spending time with their child in the bed, reading them stories. This is energizers. This is a concept we do get. Like Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam told Bilal about salah. Arihna biha ya Bilal. Arihna biha. Like give us raha, give us peace. So the seeking of comfort in your daily life is something we should all be doing. So we have to be balancing the things that give us comfort and energy with things that zaps our energy. So if you're going to do energy zappers all day, every day, like all day, and you're not balancing it, you're not having moments of energizers inserted in them, what's going to happen? You are going to become overwhelmed and burnt out. So if you want to stay happy, and if you want to look after yourself, so you can give others then you have to insert some energizers in your life, in your day. So it's a matter of identifying your energizers, inshallah. Okay, a sister is asking, how should I react if a 10-year-old shouts in house at siblings and a 4-year-old does the same? I try to remain calm, but I snap. What consequences is best? How can I keep calm in home? Right. So the 10-year-old that's shouting, first of all, he can't be the only one shouting. So who else shouts in the house? Which grown-up around him shouts? Could be the father, could be the mother. So let's just say that where's the influence coming from? And I'm not saying it in a way to blame, but rather in a way of understanding. So then when we see where the behavior stems from, even if we can't remove the behavior, we can still talk about it with the child. So okay, I know that Baba was shouting, but no, this is not the way. This is not the best way to handle the situation. So that kind of. So first, having a talk with a 10-year-old, and uh, and and then also, so this talk needs to come from a place of connection rather than from the place of judgment and from the place of you're a bad person. Then give them an identity. This is the best behavior changer ever for any child. For any child, the best change, the behavior changer is giving them a new identity. And so, so for example, if you tell a person that, let me give you an example. So, for example, if you tell a person to eat healthy, they might do that one time and they might not do that the next time. I mean, okay, they understand that this is a good thing to do. Okay, they want to eat healthy. However, they might not have the motivation to do it every single time. But here is the key thing. If you are able to give your child the identity of being healthy, then it's much more likely that they're going to be making many healthy choices down the line. And here's how it works. So instead of saying, eat healthy, eat healthy, eat healthy, what you try to tell your child is like, so for example, if they reach for an apple one time, oh, you you make healthy choices. You love being healthy, don't you? And slowly, slowly, you're giving them an identity of being healthy, of loving being healthy, of loving exercising, of loving to eat healthy and taking care of your body. So if they see being healthy as their identity, they're more likely to stick with it long term and do it on their own because you've given them an internal identity. So then it's the same thing with shouting and being calm. What you can do then is to give your child an identity of being calm, being patient. Oh, I love how you control your impulses. Even though your brother shouted at you, you didn't shout back. You are a calm person. So slowly, slowly give them the identity and show them how they're a calm person. Give them that identity. So then they would really, try to master their reactions, we say. And, even if they shout at some point, don't bring that to your attention and don't focus on that. Rather try to catch them not shouting and say, oh, last time when you asked for a snack, your voice was very loud, but this time you asked for it very peacefully and calmly, and I loved it. And you've become such a calm person. So now your child has started seeing themselves as somebody who talks softly and who's being calm. So this is the next thing you can do, and it's really, really powerful thing in parenting is to give your children identity. So for me, like for example, me, I try to give them the identity of being Muslim, right? So for example, if they're using bad words in the house, like oh, mashallah, like we are Muslims. We are clean people. Our tongues are clean because our tongues, we recite Quran with our tongues, or we keep our tongues clean. And we keep it because we're Muslims, we don't indulge in bad words. You might hear some bad words outside, but that's not who we are. We are good Muslims, inshallah. We are people who love Allah. And so our manners are different. So this is the kind of identity giving that is really going to make a long-term impact on your child, bi'idhnillah. And sometimes, so please try to focus on the positive and try to focus, don't don't try to, so your question says, okay, what consequences is best? What I would say is that in this situation of just shouting, I wouldn't necessarily like I wouldn't encourage any consequences, rather positive reinforcement and and reminders. So things like we use calm voice in the house. We use calm voice in the house. So those kind of reminders and also reinforcing their identity. You're such a calm person. So this works in much better way, inshallah. All right. A sister is saying, when I'm upset and I express myself to my husband, he feels that I'm disrespectful. But I think he doesn't like that I get upset at all. I try to keep my voice lowered, but maybe I can try fixing my tone more. Any advice? So I would say that the best thing you could do about it is to talk to your husband about it. So, and if you've tried talking to him about it, what did he say? Did you tell him that it seems like you can't? You just rather that I don't get upset at all, and even I would love that. This is not human. So see where his expectations are coming from, and try talking to him about it, and like having this conversation with him in a calm way, over a cup of tea or something, and see where his ideas are coming from. Like what does he have against you being upset? And if there's like something Islamic about it, you can mention like Aisha radiallahu anha, how she used to be upset with Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam at times. You could mention that they could, so this is a normal thing between couples, like wife and husband, getting upset, and they each having their moment, and then they're coming back to normal. So I don't think that it's wrong for you to be upset, but yeah, do it in a respectful way. But also really understand your husband's culture and thought. Like, where is this coming from? Like in his house, where he grew up, how does his mother behave? Like, and especially like if you can witness the interaction between his mother and father with each other. So like, okay, how do they talk to each other? And then catch her mother like in a moment of like her being really angry. Like, what is she doing? Really, what is she? What does she do? How does she communicate? Does she communicate at all? Does she just go silent? So and those things really will make you understand where your husband is actually coming from, and watch his sisters. Do they get upset, and do they get away with it with that, or is your husband really just sensitive to you getting upset, or also sensitive to other women getting upset in his life? So all of this data is really helpful in you navigating what could be the best step. So, for example, if there's anybody in his family, like a woman, a younger sister, or an auntie, like who can get away with being upset with him, and so this is a data for you that okay, how is she doing that? Like how is she bringing up her feelings in an upset way with you, and your husband being okay with it? So this is all data, inshallah, and yeah, a lot of it is just communication, talking to him about it, managing each other's expectations, and really seeing where he's coming from. So many husbands don't like their wives getting upset because the wives do get loud, or the wives become harsh, and they see it not feminine. When when the wife is like harsh and loud, they don't find it feminine at all. So then, so then, if it's coming from that angle, then that's also something like worth noting. Okay, so this is his definition of femininity, and if I want to see more feminine to him, then I might have to work on my voice and on my tone. Yeah. If you have any like specifics, or if you want to talk to me about it over the microphone, please feel free to do that so we can have a more like personalized discussion on it. Okay, so okay, so there's another thing that I've never ever been able to talk about, but I really wanted to talk to ladies about this, and I really want to raise awareness on this. and it is being smart about your money. So, monetary decisions like, okay, many ladies like to help their husbands with their money. And there's nothing wrong with that. You don't help your husband, so you might just like give them a loan. Or not just your husband, anybody really. Like maybe your brother, maybe your sister. And this is something I really love about Islam. It's so practical. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala clearly mentions in Quran, إذا تداينتم بدين إلى أجل مسمى فاكتبوه. And you write it between you. So it needs to be in writing. It needs to be written. And why does it need to be written? Why does it need to be written? Because when it comes to money, this is really something that is weakness for people. And sometimes honest mistakes can happen, like based on memory. SubhanAllah, like I remember myself, like SubhanAllah, I gave my husband some money. And he is very sincere, well-meaning, and subhanallah, like and I'm a kind of person like who just forgets about it, like okay, based on trust, and like I trust him so much, so I just let my emotions and trust, take the lead here. Okay, he's my husband, like okay, and he's a very religious person, alhamdulillah, Allah Mubarak, I've got no worries, right? So I gave him some money, and then after a while I remembered, but subhanallah, like he had no memory of it, no recollection of me even giving him any money at all. And honestly, like this is one of the strongest ways a shaitan could cause a divide. And subhanallah, like I went back to my records in the bank statements, and we were able to pinpoint that I did actually send him that money, and subhanallah, like he immediately paid. He was mortified that he had forgotten. But imagine if I didn't have that in writing. If I didn't have that in writing, like I would have felt like he took my money, and he would think that I'm just accusing him of taking money. So subhanallah, can you see that how wrong this could go in a marriage? Not just marriage, in any relationship. So faktubu, have it in writing. So when it comes to money, Islam is very clear. No ambiguity, no room for emotions and trust. Let me tell you another story. What happened is, I came across this religious person on the social media, and I saw that, like, subhanAllah, so he looked like a very religious person, mashallah, but he was an investor, and he had this platform of educating people, and that platform. So he had this like a business idea, and he was calling for investors, and and he promised a certain return every month on the investment. So we had a talk about it, and I decided to invest with him. And now this one, I had it in writing and everything. I was, everything in writing and everything. So alhamdulillah, the payouts started coming every month. Some months were low, some months were high, and it was, that's how businesses are like anyway. So you can't expect a steady income, steady growth, whatever. So sometimes it was low, sometimes high. But alhamdulillah, I started investing more and more. And then over time, I built more trust on him. And subhanAllah, like kept having, the investors kept having reminders from him, reminders like religious reminders, and all of that kind of thing. Like, so he had pictures with scholars or with the religious people on his account. And a point came where I invested every single thing that I had, because I had built that much trust, and because of the contract that we had. And after a while, subhanallah, he took all my money and vanished. So that he was a massive fraud. And the reason I had invested with him in the first place, because of him because him looking religious and seeming religious. So it was based on emotions and trust rather than based on actual research and data. And obviously, I tried to do some, but I wasn't as thorough as I could have been, as I would have been if it was not a religious person that I trusted. So see, when it comes to money, emotions and trust has no place. Clarity and research and written evidences. And subhanAllah, when he took all my money away, I went back to the contract and the contract was gone as well because the contract was online. So everything happens in life for a reason, for a lesson. It teaches us a lesson, it teaches us awareness and how to be smarter. And every one of us, goes through some tests and trials in life. So that was one for me. And it taught me valuable lessons. I was like, okay, I've got to make sisters smarter about their money. And I'm learning from my mistakes, and hopefully, you guys wouldn't have to make those same mistakes. So when it comes to money, just always do a lot of research and never base any decisions on emotions and trust. And a sister said, "Can I raise something about this?" Go for it, dear. This is what I'm here for. While that sister is typing, let me read some of the questions on YouTube. Oh, your sister said, I can't unmute. Okay, let me just quickly unmute you then. Um, where are you, sister? You have to raise your hand for me to unmute you. Okay, here, I've unmuted you now. Let... وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
Sorry, I hope the background noise isn't too much. I'm just out. Very quickly, though, I will share something in relation to this. So what do you do if your husband, say he's struggling financially a little? He does have a job, he's getting a salary, but he feels like I'm working so hard and my wife has money. So why can't she help me? Why? And it's sort of like he feels better about it, that you can see I'm working so hard. You can see I'm struggling. I wouldn't have to work so hard if you would just contribute, if you would just help me out. But the wife feels that it's his job as a man. Like if I start helping him, he's just gonna maybe there's a fear there he's gonna slack. And in the past, when she has helped him, it just felt like he kind of didn't see it as that important, kind of overlooked that. It's almost like it's an expectation for him that she
Yes.
should help him. And it's causing like a resentment inside her now that why are you expecting me to help you and contribute? Like, Masha, you're a smart, capable man. At the end of the day, like you can have another plan, you can get another, job. You can figure it out because that. I'm not trying to be mean and say it's your job, but and I know that things can be very difficult today, and it's almost like there's an expectation there for a second income because that's the only way to survive nowadays. But I don't believe that really, and
Yeah.
I feel like, and then it becomes like if you can't help, well then don't expect me to help in the house. That's your job. But I think they're completely two different situations. Him providing and a woman needing extra help in the house because the household and kids are not just like it's my job and that's your but I think providing is a very clear thing. Whereas so what should a woman handle this? Like she can see there's an
Right.
expectation and he's becoming upset over it and he sort of doesn't feel there's a resentment there
Right.
from him
So
that
let me
you're
just
not
ask you
doing
one
it.
question.
Yeah,
This is
go
actually a
ahead.
very, very good question. And I'm happy that you're talking about this. So the question I want to ask you now is, where is your money coming from? Is it something, a fixed amount that you've already had before marriage and like, or is it something that your parents have given you, or is it something that you're earning right now? So then that's how you're having
So
money.
it's sort of earning, but just like a part-time uh, little basis where it doesn't really affect anything. Like it doesn't even notice or it doesn't affect the work in the house or anything. Like it's not even a full-time job. It's like very like maybe like 5 hours a week and just like a bit of extra money that is being saved and to use as one wishes to maybe help one family or give to charity or however, like get those bit of extra things that you want that your husband maybe can't always give you, maybe think it's not important, but you can just, do yourself. You can get a few extra things. Um, so use that
No, I
money for
get
yourself
that.
a little. Yeah.
I get that. However, did you mention that before marriage? Did you say that like sort of like in a contract way that if you're going to work, sorry, if that as a wife is entitled to working and earning and keeping the money, is that something that was clearly stated before marriage, like in the nikah
Um,
agreement?
well, it was clearly stated that I don't expect to be told to work, or that I expect the woman to fully provide. And that I want to be a stay-at-home wife, and I don't want to be expected to take on the responsibility in any way of providing. If that was stated clearly.
Right. Okay. So do you want me to be extra nice, or do you want me to like be
No, be honest,
straightforward about
please.
it? Be honest and straightforward. Right. So honestly, sister, if a woman and her husband are resorting to traditional roles where a woman is expected to do the household things and the man is expected to provide, and a woman doesn't earn, then it's really simple and straightforward. That, it is an expected thing. A woman doesn't earn, so the husband is going to spend on her and support her and all of that. But really, like, as soon as a woman starts earning, the relationship dynamic starts changing. And now a husband sees that a woman is also earning. And 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 especially if he's struggling. Especially if he's struggling. So he might see that that a woman is earning. Can you, sister, can you mute yourself? Because I could hear the background noise. Yeah. So as soon as a woman starts earning, the relationship dynamic changes. And it's naive to think that everything is going to remain the way it was. It is really naive. Now, it is really different in the West compared to how things are, let's say, in Saudi, for example. So in Saudi, it might be considered a shame-worthy thing to take money from your wife or to have wife spend on the house. So it is almost against masculinity. However, in the West, things are really different. It's a different culture. So therefore, it's naive to not to expect like the Saudi values to be in the Western culture. And here, really, things are like that. Like he sees that at work, he sees that everywhere. The couples are really both contributing towards the house expenses. They're both changing. They're both helping around in the house as well. And strictly speaking, from an Islamic perspective, if a woman is earning, so a husband is entitled to having. I know this sounds really horrible when you say it this way, but really is that a husband is entitled to his wife's time. So if that time is spent not on the house and not on the husband, rather it is spent on her earning and doing things for herself, like earning, then he is entitled to to have a compensation. So really, like in an Islamic way, if you have started earning after marriage, then the relationship dynamics are changed. And it's really a bit selfish to think that I should earn and I should have all the access to my money and shouldn't have to spend it anywhere on the house or anywhere, and a husband should support me and spend on me and all my needs and also work in the house as well. So I know it's a way of thinking, but I feel like it's a bit of a selfish way of thinking, because really, then if you're earning, then your husband does have to step in extra because you are away for that time. You are spending time away from the house. So then it would really be really nice of a wife to just offer herself, say, okay, I- I'm earning and I am going to be, for example, spending on this or this. So that's really like or just even if a husband doesn't expect, like, for example, just randomly, like as my friend said that she went for she wanted to do a live conference, a live event, and she received some money from there, and her husband really took her there and took care of the kids. So all the while that she was away, her husband was really stepping up. And so then she took the money that she got from the event, and she did a party for them all and say to really appreciate him for doing all of that. And so she spent her money on them. So when a husband sees right now the dynamic that has been created, your husband is really looking at you as a selfish person. Rather, what you can do is to construct a narrative around you that you're really happy to contribute, but just, you don't get enough to contribute on everything. But what you can do, like if you want to really be smart about it and you want to like keep a lot of your money, is to have to let him see where you're spending the money on. and say that, okay, for example, if you're living in UK, like dental treatment costs a lot, for example. So if you want to if you want to get braces or if you want to do any dental procedure, so the key is that your husband knows that you're saving up to something, that you're not keeping your money away just to be selfish. That you, okay, or say something like about your mother, for example, your mother really, really needs a car, for example, and she didn't get it so far. So you're really saving up to that. Really, this is one of my life desires or like my goals or my missions, that I could make my mother's life easier. She did so much for me in the past, and I really want to save up to that. And so do let your husband see what you're saving up to, and also let him see you spending in the house, even if you're not doing it too much, doing it a little bit here and there. Just make a big deal out of it. Okay, like I am going to spend on something, for example, not key things, not key things. That's the goal. When you're spending on the house, don't do it on the main things because that's your husband's job. What you can do is that, like an extra comfort, for example, an extra appliance in the house that you really don't need, but it would be rather comfortable to have. For example, a juicer, for example. So spend on the extra things that make your life easier. That's the key. So you spend, but you make your own life easier. So you feel like, okay, so you feel like, okay, she's actually spending on the house, but then he still feels like a man because he's doing the main providing and main providing. And also, he's not feeling like, okay, the wife is just a hoarder and she just wants to use me and abuse me and she doesn't want to contribute. So no, he shouldn't feel like that. He shouldn't feel like you're trying to be selfish. Rather, he should feel like she's earning, and alhamdulillah, it did bring some ease in our life. So it is a good thing that she's earning. It's not a selfish thing, it's a good thing she's earning. And yeah, I can see that why she's trying to save so much. You get where you're coming from, sister? Does it make sense? Okay. Um, okay, and where it can become a problem if it starts if it starts a dependency on wife's money. That's where it can become a problem, sisters. So you have to be very careful about not spending, not doing overspending or not making him extra dependent on your earnings. And if you see like an increasing dependency on your money and increasing hunger and desire, then I might have a bad news for you. You sister, you might have to stop earning or like hide it really well, because if it's not working for your marriage, then it's not working. And every marriage dynamic is different. Right. Oh, sister can't unmute. Wait a second. Okay. Can you unmute now, inshallah?
Jazakallah khair for that. So he is aware that I'm barely earning anything. Like it's not like a proper job. It's just a little bit of extra I have in my hands. So I have a bit of freedom to maybe get things that I want, a cream that I like that he might think, oh, it's too expensive out there, things like that. Um, he's he's Arab. He knows very much about providing. Mashallah, he does take responsibility for that. But I just feel that he wanted me to contribute. He thinks that two incomes would be better for us. He wants me to contribute in like if I give a bit of extra money, then maybe okay, we can get a better apartment, for example. But I don't want to contribute in the input, like you said, bills and rent and things like that.
No, no,
Uh,
don't contribute in
with the
rents and things like
yeah,
that.
so I feel like he can afford, but maybe he's trying to save. He's got his own vision, what he wants to do with the money. I feel that he can afford by himself to get a better apartment and things. And I don't want to put myself in a position where I'm giving to get better in our life.
Yeah, but I
So
feel like what you can do is to
so
communicate
yeah.
better and what you are going your plans for the money and how you want to spend them, just so he doesn't see like you're hoarding it and holding it all out on him, so he can see that you actually have uses for money and they're valid uses and they're important uses.
Yes, I believe you made a valid point. I think I somehow inadvertently didn't intend to maybe made him feel that I'm just not making him spend everything and I'm not willing to spend any of my money. But that's not true. I have like tried to make things easy in terms of just not expecting him to spend on all of these bit of extra things, like you said, that I feel like I want, and making myself a bit more comfortable. And I thought he sees that, but I guess
No, no, he doesn't see that.
it
You have to vocalize it. You have to make a big deal out of it that you're doing
and
this.
honestly, it's just,
And
yeah, just like maybe, like you said, giving. The thing is, I do have family money too. I raised a boy in a different family, and sometimes it just annoys, it upsets me when I do want something, and then he's just like, well, you have your money, and I'm just like, well,
but
I'm always going to
how
have
does
that
he
money.
know? How does he know you have the family money?
He knows because he knows I have, for example, he knows my family was well off. He knows that I had savings before I had money before I even when I married him, things like that. But
Well, if you know that you had savings, that's something you've told him. He can't know it by himself. But then
mm,
that's something that you need
it's
to be
something
careful
that
about
came
as
up
well. Yeah,
in
then
conversation. But I just feel like it's not something that I really want to always be like being so tight. It wasn't something that I deliberately told him. I was like, he had
yeah.
to know. I don't know, it's just something that came up in conversation. But I didn't feel like I
Mm,
had to like just completely hide every single little thing
yeah.
that I have from my own husband. I thought it's understood. Like in my family, generally, the women they'll have their money, they'll have their thing, but the men, they just understand. They'll never like, for them, it's just like, well, we're providing, they can have their money or whatever.
Yeah.
But when I married him, he just seems to have a very different mindset. That was another
Yeah.
thing that really I struggle with. I'm just like, my brothers don't expect me to. My brothers know I have money. They never expect me to
Mm,
help them out. They never expect me to give my money. If I ever operate to my brother, even he'd be like, no, 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 it's fine. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. Like I just
yeah.
expect him to figure it out. Just figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I
And I
get
just
it. I
don't know.
get
He
it.
doesn't
However,
understand
your
that.
husband,
Yeah.
now that you've noticed that your husband is a different mindset, it is really wise. And I tell that to every woman that it's really wise to not to kind of have maintain a bit like a lot of privacy around your own money because you never know what kind of person you're marrying. So until you know them
Yeah.
really well, it's wise to have a lot of privacy about these things, inshallah, because and going forward, inshallah, you will make adjustments because your husband is not like your family men, right? He is different.
Yeah.
So then he does need a different approach and a bit wiser approach, inshallah. So the first thing you can do is not to bring up your savings or money. And then it might be a very good idea for you to it kind of like a sly trick. And it's just for the happiness of the husband because you are entitled to your money. But then if it's causing an air of, okay, she is being selfish and she wants to hoard everything for herself and make my life difficult, if that kind of feelings are entering in the marriage, then some changes need to be made. So it might be wise for you to do some like big spending somewhere. For
Mm.
example, like I said, buy a car or something. Even if like after a while you have to you sell the car and get the money back. Don't tell him about it. Like don't tell about getting the money back. Like pretend that the money is being spent. So like the idea that money is being spent is not being hoarded. It's not so he doesn't always feel like, okay, my wife is very rich, but she just doesn't want to
Yeah.
help me out.
Yeah, I understand that you made me realize something that, yeah, I didn't realize from his perspective. It was seeming like that,
Yeah.
a little. And yeah, maybe I need to just communicate this a bit differently rather than maybe my attitude has just been like, well, you're the provider, you get everything, and that's it. I'm not.
Yeah.
Well, for a guy who's sometimes struggling and working hard, it probably feels a bit like, well, she helps other people. I'm her husband. Why can't she just take it? I don't know, maybe. But
Yeah.
I'm trying to relax my own attitude because for me, it's just because for me, it kind of affects my feelings for him a little bit. The respect where it's just like, why are you expecting this? Or just figure it out. Like you're a man. It kind of affects because when you're used to, I'm not trying to compare him with my family, but when you're used to a certain being raised in one certain way, that's kind of that's like your thing, which you see the world. I'm not saying it's always correct, but you can't help but compare your
Yeah.
circumstances with the thing you've known. And sometimes when
Yeah.
you find that that thing is not at the same level, it just becomes like a how do I carry on respecting and having the same feeling within me
Yeah.
for him? Do you understand? That's my
Sister, I do
struggle.
understand. I do understand. And it's fine that you brought it up. It's good. Let's talk about it. So, the thing is, you have expected your husband to be a certain way, and really, the expectation is the cause for a lot of problems in the marriage. So, if you manage your expectations, then your feelings will manage themselves. So the first of all, because you expected him, even subconsciously, that he would have the same attitude towards money that your family did, and it's normal thing to expect. But then once you realized that it's not the case, it's normal for you to feel a little bit like hurt or feel like, you wish something was there, but it is not. So like a little bit of like a grieving period when you, and then allow yourself to be sad about it. Okay, your husband is not what your ideal man, that the ideal, he does not have the ideal qualities. And know that he might have to make that a lot of those adjustments as well, because obviously he also had a certain idea of how his wife was going to be like. And obviously you're not ideal and he's not ideal, because our ideal versions don't exist. So then a lot of it like adjustments then. Okay, so first of all, is there anything inherently wrong with what he's asking? No, there's not. So then once you start accepting the new reality, you're not going to get past it if you keep fighting it, if you keep wanting your husband to be something that he's not. You're only gonna get past it once you accept, okay, this is the man that I married, and this is him. This is who he is. And okay, there is nothing inherently wrong with with how he is. So then that's when acceptance starts coming in, and slowly your feelings become adjusted. And then so even momentarily, if it feels like the feelings of respects are going, don't worry, inshallah, they're going to come back, because your husband, you will start seeing with time, okay, once your expectations are settled, adjusted, then inshallah you're going to again start focusing on its positivity, inshallah, and feelings of respect will come back, inshallah. All right, Sister, Jazakallah khair for your insightful question. And I've got some questions on YouTube. Let's see. A sister said, I want to teach kids about Islam. What topics are best? What topics and best for different age groups? And are there any websites or books you recommend? I try to teach via my role modeling first, but I want to teach more. Right. So for that, sister, first of all, I want to ask you, are you a part of my Al Qawarir WhatsApp community? Because if you are, then there are different groups for that kind of thing. One group is called Homeschooling Group. You can post this question, and inshallah, you're going to find loads of resources in that group. MashaAllah, the mothers over there are so resourceful, Mubarak. Now, the one thing I want every parent to focus on first and foremost, and it comes from the verse, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught Adam the name of things. And then another verse in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ar-Rahman, علم القرآن خلق الإنسان علمه البيان. So this one, علمه البيان. خلق الإنسان, Allah created the insan. Allah is counting his favors on us. And among the first favors is counting, علمه البيان. He taught him the bayan, the communication, the talking. And it is, so the first things you should be focusing on is to increase your child's literacy, the words and information about things and words and a good grasp on language. Now, it seems mundane, but it's not. It's not. The more sophisticated, the more advanced your child is at language, the more advanced is his thinking, and the smarter he or she is. And literacy is directly correlated to positive outcomes later on in life. So for example, if you have like 50 books for your children versus if you have like 100 books or 150 books, that directly correlates to how smart your child is going to be, how good of a thinker, how much of a critical thinker, and how much of like positive outcomes. And this language is the thing that everything else is built on it. So once your child learns to read, write, talk, and every emotion that they're feeling, you're giving them 3-4 words for it, and you're giving them like this sophisticated and advanced kind of language, then they are going to be able to think in a way more advanced way. And especially if you're homeschooling, you will see that your child become more independent sooner. So they will be able to, like, for example, you're giving them a math worksheet. Instead of you sitting and explaining each question to them, they will be able to read and understand it themselves. So they will start gaining independence a lot earlier if you focused on language development first. So what I would say is, along with teaching them how to be a good person, how to be a good Muslim, how to please Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the most important thing you could do is to work on their language and literacy, on the love for books. This is what I would advise you. And the second thing, inshallah, is to join our community, WhatsApp community of Al Qawarir, and you will find a lot more resources, inshallah. All right. A sister is asking, what about when husband asks to borrow money and when you remind him of it after some time, he mentions that he understood it as you done me a favor this time. And next time I will too by repaying. Okay, so the question is then, what a husband borrows money and then you remind him of it, and he mentioned that it was just a favor from you. Now, where did that misunderstanding come from? That misunderstanding came from not being clear and explicit in writing. So even if you're giving somebody a penny, unless you intend to give him as a gift, you tell somebody comes to you and tells you, oh, can I have a loan? I just need a penny. And you don't want to write because it's such a minuscule amount. You feel embarrassed to write it down. But then if you're actually going to give it to them, don't give it as a loan, just give it as a gift. So the only time you shouldn't write it down is the time that you're actually giving somebody as a gift. So this is what I do, is like if somebody asks me for a loan, if it's something that I can afford, I ask myself, is this something that I can actually part with? So for example, if they ask me for 50 quid, for example, 50 pounds. So I ask myself, okay, can I actually just give them and forget about it? If yes, especially like if it's friends, I don't give them loans unless I'm able to you just forget it. So if I can just actually forget about it, because otherwise, this is something that actually causes splits in friendships, in family members. So I asked myself, okay, this 50 quids, can I actually just give it and forget about it? And if I can, then I easily give them as a loan. So if they did give it back, that would be great. If they didn't give it back, that won't be the end of it. I would still be fine. And I would have given it to them for the sake of Allah anyway. And it'll also tell me about what kind of like character they actually have. So how close do I want my friendship to be with them? So that's one thing. So when you said that he thought it was a favor, it's just because it wasn't written down. That it's actually a loan and it needs to be returned on this date. Okay. How to handle the discussion around allowance when someone has been married 1.5 years and wife hasn't received allowance and now it's making her resent her husband. Husband is struggling, but even little amount will mean something, or at least offering. And she started to work to maintain her needs that he should be providing. She doesn't want to ask, but be offered. Right. So this kind of mentality comes from our childhood. So what happens is we are our father's princesses. And the parent-child relationship is so that the parent is responsible for every single need of their kids. And what they do is, fathers, they keep checking if their child needs something. For example, if they saw their child in broken shoes, they'd be like, oh, okay, let me take you to buy new shoes. So they would be offering. So fathers offer because it's responsibility, it's their job, they take it seriously. Kids are vulnerable, they can't advocate for themselves. So then parents are used to taking care of every whim and desire of a child, or every tiniest need of a child. Now, when those children grow older, especially if they're women, as men are providers, but women when they grow older, they are supposed to learn to start advocating for themselves and for their needs and to be assertive. But some women, when they get married, they expect the husbands to take the role of their fathers and to actually constantly check on them. But the husband and wife relationship is not like that. The husband does not expect wife to be a vulnerable child who doesn't know anything about their needs. because he's marrying a grown woman and he expects a partner who understands her needs and who is able to ask for her needs. And therefore, you know, he's not seeking to find your needs and meet them. He's not. He's just living his life, being happy, caring about his needs, and trusting if you have a need, you would tell them so they can meet that need for you. So then, really, if you are a woman who expects her husband to volunteer to give you things that you desire, you're setting yourself up for failure because that's never going to happen because he's not your father and you are not a helpless child. So then it's really important for ladies to learn how to ask for pocket money. And I've actually made a video about it on my channel and you can check it. It's about pocket money. If you type pocket money in al-qawarir, inshallah, it will come out for you. And it tells you exactly how to ask and how to get your husband used to giving you pocket money, even if he previously was not used to giving it to you. But you will have to get out of your comfort zone. You will have to get over your expectations of him just realizing magically that he should be giving something to you. Right? So this mindset needs to change a little bit. All right, ladies. So since there are no more questions, I really loved spending time with you today. And inshallah, till next Saturday or Sunday, if you have any suggestions for the topics you would really like another live about, please let me know in the comments of this video or in our Al-Qawaril community on WhatsApp. And inshallah, I'll be sure to hold a live on it, inshallah, بإذن. All right, ladies, سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.